Parents said they couldn't afford to take me on the trip. Then I heard my mom say she wouldn't fit in. It was the end-of-year school field trip, the one everyone talked about since the start of 5th grade. A 3-day trip to Washington, D.C., with tours of monuments, museums, and even a hotel stay with friends. For a small-town kid like me, it felt like a golden ticket to something bigger. I came home from school buzzing with excitement, clutching the permission slip like it was a treasure map. Mom! Dad! Look! We're going to D.C. We'll see the Lincoln Memorial, the Air and Space Museum. Can I go? Their faces changed. My dad shifted in his chair. My mom looked down at her hands. Sweetheart, Dad began gently, we'll see. Let us think about it. But over the next few days, their answers turned into soft excuses. We've got bills this month, maybe next year, these things are expensive. I nodded, trying to understand. But inside, something wilted. I saw the way my friends chatted about what snacks they'd pack and how they'd prank their roommates, and I shrunk further into myself. One night, I got up for a glass of water and heard my parents talking in the kitchen. I stopped, hidden behind the hallway wall. My mom's voice was low and full of sadness. I don't want to go. Not even if we could afford it, she said. I wouldn't fit in. Not with the other moms. Not in those little bus seats. I haven't been on a trip in years, John. I wouldn't even know what to wear. I don't want to be the mom everyone stares at. My chest tightened. I suddenly realized, this wasn't just about money. It was about her. My mom was bigger than most people. She carried the weight of 1,000 kindnesses, of skipped meals so we could eat, of hand-me-down clothes patched perfectly, of double shifts at the diner and never once complaining. But in her mind, her size made her unworthy of being seen, of showing up. I returned to bed, water forgotten, heart heavy. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same. She stood at the stove flipping pancakes, humming softly to the radio, but her shoulders sagged a little more than usual. That day, I told my teacher I wouldn't be going. She looked surprised. But I thought you were so excited. I was, I said quietly. But I don't want to go anymore. At recess, I sat alone. That's when Ms. Ramirez, our school counselor, walked by and sat next to me. You okay, kiddo? I nodded. But something cracked open, and the words came spilling out. Not just about the trip, but about my mom. About how she hid behind humor, about how she didn't feel good enough, about how she didn't feel like she fit. Ms. Ramirez listened, really listened. And then she said something I'd never forget. Sometimes, the people who carry us forget they deserve to stand beside us too. Maybe it's our turn to carry them for a bit. I went home and hugged my mom tighter than ever. She seemed surprised. What's this for? For everything, I whispered. That night, I sat down with a pen and wrote something. It wasn't a school essay. It was a letter. To the PTA. To the school board. To the community. I told them about my mom. About how she gave without asking for anything. About how many parents stay home, not because they don't care, but because they feel like they don't belong. I didn't know what would come of it. But a week later, my teacher pulled me aside and showed me an envelope. Inside was a note from the PTA and a prepaid card. Enough to cover the trip. And more. They were moved by your letter, she said, eyes misty. And they want your mom to come too. As a chaperone. I raced home, waving the note like a victory flag. My mom read it slowly, hands trembling. They want me, she asked. They need you, I corrected. And so do I. There were tears. There was laughter. And for the first time in a long time, there was hope. The night before the trip, I watched as she carefully picked out clothes, packed snacks, and triple-checked everything. She even asked me if I thought the other moms would mind if she brought homemade cookies. I told her they'd love them. On the bus, she squeezed into the seat beside me. It was a little snug, sure, but no one laughed. No one stared. In fact, some of my classmates beamed when they saw the Tupperware container she held. By the time we reached our first stop, she was already everyone's favorite chaperone. At the hotel, when some kids forgot their toothbrushes, she had extras. When someone got homesick, she sat up late, telling them funny stories until they smiled. When the other moms talked about yoga and Pilates, she smiled and listened, and then shared her secret chocolate cake recipe, winning them over with every warm, honest word. But the moment that stays with me forever happened on the last night of the trip. We stood at the Lincoln Memorial, the marble glowing under soft lights, the city buzzing around us. My mom stood quietly, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite name. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "I just never thought I'd be here. I never thought I belonged in places like this." "You belong everywhere," I said. "Especially here." She smiled then, really smiled. And for the first time, I saw her not just as my mom, but as a woman who had finally taken a step into the light. When we got home, things didn't magically change. We still had bills. My parents still worked hard. But something had changed, inside her. She signed up for community classes. She joined a walking group. She wore colors brighter than beige and gray. And once, when I asked her what made her finally say yes to the trip, she said, "Because you reminded me that I don't have to be small to be loved. I just have to show up." That trip wasn't just about monuments or museums. It was about learning that sometimes, the most important journey is the one that brings us back to ourselves. And all it took, was a letter. A bus ride. And a boy who believed his mom was worth the world. Moral: never underestimate the quiet strength of those who love us, or the power of reminding them that they are worthy, not in spite of who they are, but because of it.